بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره. In the previous session we talked about a very important hadith from Imam Musa ibn Ja'far alayhi salam, which is available in many books including Al-Kafi. In the first volume of Kafi, it starts from page 12 and it goes on for several pages. If you remember, this hadith is about the significance of reason and reasoning, and Imam addresses Hisham ibn Hakam, who himself was a person who was very understanding and a person who was especially trained for theological, intellectual discussions. We talked about this passage from the middle of hadith, in which Imam said that Ya Hisham, inna likulli shay'in dalila, there is a sign for everything. You can understand whether someone's intellect is functioning or not is to see how much he is thinking and contemplating. If he's a thoughtful person, a contemplative person, so this means that his intellect is functioning. وَدَلِيلُ التَّفَكُّرِ, and to be thoughtful by itself can be understood by silence. If a person observes silence, it means that he is thinking. If a person is all the time speaking, or as I explained, even listening, then he doesn't have any chance to think, to ponder. And then Imam said, وَلِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ مَطِيَّةٌ وَمَطِيَّةُ الْعَقْلِ التَّوَاضُعُ. This was where we stopped. Everything is in need of a vehicle. If there is something which happens gradually, if there is something that must start from one stage and goes to another stage, then that is in need of a vehicle. If you want to move from one space to another space, or if you want to move from one condition to another condition, you need some vehicle. For a person who wants to improve his understanding, for a person who wants to strengthen his thinking power, the best thing is humbleness. If you are arrogant, then automatically you are telling yourself that there is nothing to discover. Everything must be as I wish and as I decide. So why should I bother to think about something and discover something? A person who is arrogant believes that he is the center of the world and everything must serve him. Therefore, he doesn't need to think about anything. He doesn't need to bother about anything. What is the truth or what is not true? It's not important. I am making decisions. If you look at someone like Pharaoh, for Pharaoh, there is no need to bother what is, right decision or what is, wrong decision. If you, for example, bring a person to Pharaoh to decide whether this person is guilty or not, he doesn't need to bother and say, oh, I have to be very careful because if I make a wrong, judgment, then I am going to be accountable, I'm going to be responsible, this person would suffer as a result, I'm questioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For a person like Pharaoh, he believes he is the one who makes decision and he is the one who grants everyone his right. So he can make a decision just in 1 second. And he is quite happy with the decision he makes. Why? Because he is arrogant. So the people who are truthful they have to be humble. It's impossible to be arrogant and be truthful. It's impossible to be arrogant and spend your time and energy and make efforts to discover the truth. Arrogant people don't do this. So, when it comes to understanding, if we want to improve our understanding, if we want to liberate our intellect and let our intellect be in the maximum power and maximum functioning, we have to get rid of arrogance. We have to be humble. You know, you may have seen people, and inshallah you are one of those people. There are people that when they discuss about a scientific issue or about a social issue, you see that they have their own ideas, but they are not that much insistent. As soon as they realize that they have missed a point, they didn't think about one aspect, and someone tells them, they immediately accept. I love to be one of those people. There is no insistence, there is no idea that if I admit, it means that I have accepted I was wrong, my knowledge was not, complete. No, they don't think about these things. They don't bother at all about what people are going to say about them or not. There are people that when you ask them questions, they don't mind to say, I don't know. I don't know. But unfortunately, most of people are not like this. Most of the people, even if they don't know, they want to say something. Why? Because they feel that they should not be humble before the truth. The most important thing is their ego. If they know the truth, they may say or may not say. If they don't know the truth, they say something else. Why? Because I have to be respected. I am more important. I have to protect my reputation. If in front of my students or people I say I don't know, then nothing is left for me, if I am an arrogant person. But if I am a humble person, then for me to be able to admit my mistake or my ignorance, it's easy. And as a result, when I am thinking about something, there is no pressure on me. There is no psychological pressure that I have to prove myself. I am free. When I am free, I have better chance to understand the truth. But when all the time I am thinking about, I have to make a kind of position that doesn't, damage my reputation, then it is very difficult. I give you a test. If you are a person who has written, suppose, some books, maybe you have written 4 or 5 books on one topic. So everyone knows you that you are a person who has done research and has written some books and has spent some years, and he has always had this position. Now someone makes a question and you are addressing this question. If to the slightest you feel that you must come up with a conclusion that would not contradict all those books that you have written, this is arrogance. This is shirk. If I am able to study this particular scientific issue without feeling any pressure from my past history, this means that I am a person who is free, and therefore I have the chance to think and understand the truth. There is no pressure on me. Sometimes there are lots of pressure on us, social, psychological, sometimes political pressure, and they don't let us to objectively study the case. We want to either defend ourselves or our party or our group or our tribe. So if a person wants to be able to have maximum power of intellect, he has to be humble. And it is amazing that humbleness leads to independence. Humbleness leads to high position. Humbleness leads to be elevated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Humbleness makes you the most advanced scholar. This is the way Allah has designed the world. Man tawadha'a lillah rafa'ahu Allah. When you are not thinking at all about yourself, then everyone else in this world is responsible to raise you. Why? Because Allah has designed the world in this way, that whoever is humble must be raised and elevated. And when we want to be arrogant, then everything will work against us to bring us down. As I said in the previous session, sometimes the people who are not humble make very funny mistakes. Why? Because they have not observed their limits. They wanted to claim some kind of deity for themselves, some kind of lordship, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings them down so that people would not be deceived. So, matiyatul aql at-tawadhu. Then Imam says, وَكَفَى بِكَ جَهْلًا أَن تَرْكَبَ مَا نُهِيتَ عَنْهُ. It's sufficient to prove your ignorance if you ride something that you are asked not to ride. The vehicle that you have to use is tawazu. If instead of being humble, you take something which is prohibited, like arrogance, like selfishness, like greediness, as your vehicle, this shows your ignorance. Forget whether this is morally good or not. Forget whether this is something which is loved by Allah or not. This shows your ignorance. This doesn't let you to understand. You know, sometimes we think that the moral advices that we are given in the Quran and Hadith are something for our akhirah. They don't have anything to do with our success in dunya. But this is not the case. All these moral advices that we are given, they first help us in dunya and then in akhirah, not only in akhirah. If we are said that you have to be humble as a student, as a person who is doing research, as a scholar, this is not only to be loved by Allah in the akhirah. This is to be actually successful in your scientific life. And if you are not humble, then you would not be able to understand, and your ignorance would be remaining with you all the time. So Imam says this is sufficient to prove your ignorance, that you do something that you are asked by Allah not to do. And then Imam says something about the whole aim of creation. Very powerful. Ya Hisham, ما بعث الله أنبياءه ورسله إلى عباده إلا ليعقلوا عن الله. Allah has not sent His messengers and prophets to His servants except for them being able to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and understand Allah's will. Why Allah has sent 124,000 prophets in different ranks? Imam says the reason is to help people to be able to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. لِيَعْقِلُوا عَنِ اللَّهِ. Not only to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no, to know everything in the light of their knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is more important. Just to know Allah is not enough. To know Allah is a step towards understanding what Allah wants. So this shows the role of reason, the role of intellect. If we don't use our intellect, if we are not rational people, all the prophets who have come would feel that they have not been able to achieve their mission. Why? Because part of their mission is achieved by the delivery of the message, but part of it is on us. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we have sent all the prophets and all the messengers. We have given them the book, we have given them the scale, we have given them the clear signs. Why? لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. So that people establish justice and equity. If people don't establish this, although Anbiya have delivered the message properly, but what they were looking for has not been achieved. The same is here. All the prophets have come to invite us to think and then understand. If we don't think and we don't understand, that Anbiya feel that although they have delivered the message, but the final aim has not been achieved. So in a sense, we will be ashamed in front of Anbiya that they took all the troubles in delivering the message to us, but we have not let their mission to be finished and fulfilled. Like for example, if you have a school, classrooms, textbooks, teachers, head teacher, everyone, but students don't study and don't learn anything, in a sense you have betrayed everyone. You have betrayed yourself, you have betrayed the education system, you have betrayed the teachers, head teacher, all the people who have donated money, all the sponsors. So you must feel ashamed that everyone has worked hard so that you understand, but you didn't understand. All the prophets have come, why? لِيَعْقِلُوا عَنِ اللَّهِ. So that people understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. And if, na'uzu billah, we don't achieve this, so we have betrayed all the prophets, all the holy personalities that are sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, if I have time, then I will explain what does it mean to understand the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something very important. I hope I don't forget. فَأَحْسَنُهُمْ اسْتِجَابَةً أَحْسَنُهُمْ مَعْرِفَةً. Okay, there is a call, there is an invitation for understanding Allah and understanding Allah's will. Who are the best people in responding to this call? فَأَحْسَنُهُمْ اسْتِجَابَةً. When we are invited to understand, and then based on our understanding to achieve closeness to Allah, to achieve light, to achieve life, استجيبوا لله وللرسول إذا دعاكم لما يحييكم. So who are the best people in response? أحسنهم معرفة. The best response comes from the people who have better understanding, better knowledge. The response is not coming just by doing several actions. We always have this tendency to say, okay, the best response is the response which is given by someone who does more worship. This is not necessarily a good response. Indeed, all this worship must lead to understanding. and it's needed. But worship by itself without understanding does not have that much value. وَاعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ. You must worship so that you reach the high level of understanding, which is yaqeen. But if you worship and you don't get more and more understanding and you don't get closer to yaqeen, so you have not worshipped properly. Maybe you have done certain actions, but you have not served God. You have done acts of worship, but you have not served God. So, أحسنهم استجابة أحسنهم معرفة. The people who have best knowledge, best understanding, these are the people who have responded to the call and invitation of Allah and the prophets in the best possible way. وَأَعْلَمُهُمْ بِأَمْرِ اللَّهِ. And then those who have best knowledge, those who have greatest knowledge about Allah's command, أَحْسَنُهُمْ عَقْلًا, are the people who have best reasoning, best intellect. So knowledge, and then knowledge comes through aql. So the best answer is given by those who have greatest knowledge, and those who have greatest knowledge are those who have better ability to think. So thinking is the prerequisite, is the requirement for best understanding, and best understanding is the best response to the call of the prophets. And then look at this beautiful sentence. I wish we write this with gold. وَأَكْمَلُهُمْ أَقْلًا أَرْفَعُهُمْ دَرَجَةً فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. The people who are best, who are most complete in their intellect, are the highest people in position in dunya and akhirah. Who is in the highest position? Who is closer to God than anyone else? The one who has better intellect. It's very important. This must change our outlook to religion, our outlook to life. This must change the priorities that we set up in our life. Unfortunately, this is not something that you always find present in our society. Sometimes we prefer to be more emotional than rational. Sometimes we prefer to express more our emotion than to express our thirst for knowledge and understanding, which is not always true. I'm not against emotions, but I'm saying this is not the priority. Even in the night of Qadr, you know that Shaykh al-Saduq said, the best action in the night of Qadr is muzakaratul ilm, is to sit together, not only alone, muzakaratul ilm, to sit together and discuss a scientific issue. Of course, not something irrelevant to our life, but a scientific issue related to our life. Have a discussion, question and answer. How many people in the world you know that in the night of Qadr hold a scientific discussion and they have question and answer session? They present, some paper. No, we think this is not good for night of Qadr. Night of Qadr, we should do something more important. What is more important? To cry, to pray, to ask forgiveness, which are of course very important. But Do you think that just crying and just praying and just asking for forgiveness can solve our problem? If it can solve our problem, so why after many years of doing these things, we still have problems? There are people that in the months of Ramadan, in every night, they say so many units of prayer. They memorize the whole Quran and then they recite the whole Quran in the prayer. How much they have achieved? Inshallah, Allah rewards them. We are not miserly. But this is not something that shows you are making progress. So we have to use every opportunity to understand. In the night of Qadr, I don't know whether you agree with me or not. At least you can think about it. In the night of Qadr, which is the most blessed night in the year, the night which is the night of peace, the night in which Quran has been revealed, the night that the Holy Spirit and the angels descend, I think it's best opportunity to think, so that inshallah Allah will inspire us to find our problems and solutions for our problems. Because just thinking by itself without Allah's guidance and inspiration would not lead to anything. If you have something that you have not understood properly, the night of Qadr is the best night to expect guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you have a problem in your life, the night of Qadr is the best opportunity. So, understanding and thinking is so important that Imam Kazin alayhi salam says, أَكْمَلُهُمْ أَقْلًا أَرْفَعُهُمْ دَرَجَةً فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. If you look at the companions of the Prophet, who was the best? Imam Ali alayhi salam. Look at Imam Ali. If you want to say he was the best in understanding, in reasoning, you have not made any exaggeration. Look at the sermons of Imam Ali. Look at the letters of Imam Ali. You find that he is a person of thinking and understanding and encouraging everyone to understand. The late Allama Tabatabai has a book. It's in Farsi but translated to some languages. Ali wa Hikmat Ilahi. This book is to explain that how Imam Ali expressed in his teachings theosophy, a divine wisdom, a divine philosophy. It's not theology, it's theosophy, a kind of wisdom and understanding which is centered around God. After Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, perhaps it's not very difficult to say that the highest person was Salman.